And we are live, Mary Mitchell.
Yes, it
We,
worked.
we are live. It works.
Hi, everybody. This is Wellness Wednesday with me, Mary Mitchell Campbell, and Dr. Keith Bell.
Hi,
Um,
everybody.
I'm a founder and executive director of Artists Striving to End Poverty and a Broadway music director. And Dr. Keith Bell and I have started this amazing little series to talk about how we can optimize our wellness during these crazy times.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Bell. I'm a doctor of acupuncturist, a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine in Richmond, Virginia. And today we have a special guest that I'm really excited about. Mary
Me
Mitchell,
too.
we have a legend in the house.
I
We have
know.
a legend in the house. Um, Today we have with us Twiggy Pucci Garçon, who is a legend of the house and ballroom scene. She is an artist, she's a producer, an activist, a healer, senior program director at True Colors United, and a divine rising angel. Welcome, Twiggy Pucci Garçon.
Thank
So many
you.
things.
Thank you for
Thanks
having me.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
being
being
here.
here. Yay. We're excited. But I wanted to start out by saying that originally, when we invited you back in May, the reason I wanted to have you on is because I've been in your presence, your healing presence, and you have the power to actually change a room. I've seen that. And I wanted you to talk about the importance of community, especially the ballroom community and the AIDS epidemic, and how that healed kind of a culture. And then I wanted to talk about gay pride and gender identity and wellness. But a lot has happened since we invited you on in May. So we're not even sure where we want to start. So I kind of just want to open it up to you, Twiggy, your first thoughts, and we're going to have a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, my first thoughts are happy to talk about all of those things still. And also, yeah, we're in a transformative moment globally, where I personally believe that the universe is telling us that we needed to pause and that we needed to drastically change the way that we were moving from day to day, and month to month. Um, there's actual environmental evidence of how the ozone is healing itself, and that sort of thing that's happening where the the planet is literally telling us like shit has to change,
Mhm.
and needed to change. And so, from the rise of coronavirus, and rest in power to all the folks who have lost their lives, to the uprisings around racial equity, particularly around Black lives. Um, yeah, change been a coming, and here it is. So
Yeah, Mary Mitchell, I know you had a question for Twiggy.
Well, just around, I'm curious about, so many of my friends, we're all um, very invested right now in this moment of history and this in this moment of sort of reckoning of history and doing a lot of inner work and a lot of outer work and I'm hearing from so many of my friends, black and white, brown, just how tired everyone is at this moment, the fatigue and the exhaustion. And I'm curious if you have any ideas around sort of self care during this really important moment of time.
yeah, I think self-care is always valuable. And I think a lot of us have been tired for a very long time. And, this just escalates and elevates, things that we've experienced day to day for lifetimes now. And yeah, I mean, self-care is essential. I think one of the things that I constantly tell like my chosen family and my gay kids and my house members is that it's okay, like self-care, and self-preservation is a radical act. It is also resistance. When in a time and amongst a world that says your life isn't valuable, to say actually it is valuable and I'm going to take care of it is resistance. And so I think, I encourage folks to, you know, as much as one is able, and in as many ways as one feels called to be involved, you have to do just as much self-care, so that it balances out. And that looks different for different people. For me, I totally and completely unplug. I don't consume news or social media when I'm taking care of myself. I don't speak to very many people when I'm taking care of myself. It is literally just about me. Um, And that's just like one of the ways. Sometimes self-care for me is actually spending time with friends and family, and that's it. So the one like sort of main takeaway for me in response to your question is that people understand and prioritize how essential it is to explore whatever self-care is for oneself. It looks different for everyone, but to make the time for it.
I love it. I love the idea of self-care as an act of resistance.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is beautiful.
Exactly. It is beautiful. So, yeah, Twiggy, we've been operating on Wellness Wednesday. The definition of wellness we're taking from the Global Wellness Institute, and it defines it as an active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to holistic health. I want to go back to the ballroom community. First of all, I know that there are people who are actually watching this that have no clue what the ballroom community is.
Mhm.
But was the ballroom community part of your active wellness in healing yourself? I know you're from Southern Virginia. I'm from Southern Virginia. Mary Mitchell is from North Carolina. We all grew up within 60 miles of each other. So
Mhm.
I know growing up, I would assume that growing up, because me growing up gay, you growing up Black and gay, there's some healing that needed to occur from
Yeah.
being from here. Was joining the ballroom community part of your healing?
Yeah, absolutely. For those who are watching who are less familiar, the ballroom community was created in the 1920s and 30s. It was originally called the Harlem drag scene, and it was created in resistance to homophobia and transphobia in the Black church. The balls back then were a safe space for celebration, for expression, for affirmation of Black and brown queer trans bodies. These drag balls were a performative space where folks competed in various categories that sort of affirmed themselves and affirmed who they uh, know themselves to be. And I will say that the drag ball scene had a transition to the house and ball scene in the late 60s and early 70s, when one of the queens, Crystal LaBeija, in resistance to colorism and racism within that drag ball scene, just walked out of one of the competitions and read for dear life about the problems that were happening, and created the first house, the House of LaBeija, and then subsequent houses were created. And now we compete in what's known as the house and ballroom scene. You've seen it in Pose, more recently on FX. You've seen it in Kiki, a documentary that I worked on. You've seen it in Paris is Burning, How Do I Look? Um, if you've seen Vogue Evolution on America's Next Best Dance Crew, Legendary, which now is on HBO Max. All of these are various narratives about the house and ballroom community. And so I came into the house and ballroom community in 2004. And it was at a time where I was asked to present as more masculine or more straight acting in my church or leave, and I left. And just after that was when a person from my high school, who we didn't know each other very well, we danced at the same dance studio, and he would vogue in between like technical classes. So like between ballet and modern, he would vogue, and like I was new to the dance studio, so everyone knew what was up but me. And I will also add that he was one of the only openly gay people in my high school. And we became friends very quickly, and he invited me to my first ball. And very quickly, ballroom became the place where I started to discover my sexual identity, my gender identity, um, my various forms of expression beyond that. Um, um, my work in performance art was born there. Um, it was a place that I found what I believe to be my community and what I know now to be my community. And so initially, I would say it was about discovery and survival, and grew into, a place of healing and affirmation and community. Yeah.
So you've mentioned affirmation and community several times, and you also do I wake up every morning and I know that no matter how bad my day is, I can go to your page and read Divine Rising Angels, and you post affirmations every day.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the power of affirmations and how you stay positive during all of this that's going on?
Yeah. So I do them every weekday. I'm actually late on my post today, but we'll do that after this. In the sense of self-care, to your earlier question, I'd spend the weekends to myself, so I don't post them then, but I do post them on every weekday. And affirmations is one of the techniques, self-affirmations and affirmations generally, it's just a technique that I've grown to learn about. Um, I think particularly upon sort of one of my times of spiritual awakening, like leaving Virginia, moving to New York, where I would literally have affirmations all around. Like I write them in notebooks and have them up around the house because it was a relearning of who I believe myself to be and what I believe about my own divinity and my own value. And so I think, that's what they do. They help us affirm our worth, our value, who we are, what we are in the world, what we have to contribute. And as often as we want or need them, they should and could be at our fingertips. So I really genuinely I post them for other people to absorb, but honestly, usually I'm talking to myself when I post them every day. So I get as much out of it as anyone who comes to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Mary Mitchell, you have a question?
I do. Well, first of all, I just want to say how much I appreciate the importance of affirmations and the importance of sort of reprogramming that I think has to happen for kind of all of us, whatever we've been told. But I did want to ask you about use of pronouns and why that is important to promote wellness
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah, I mean, pronouns are our way that we affirm ourselves, right? Like who we know ourselves to be. And so, um, in regard to a bunch of things, I think people think of pronouns as this very surface level thing, and actually it's quite the contrary. I think when gender identity came up earlier, and I think, um, gender identity is innate. It is who we know that we are. And so when I say my pronouns are whatever they are, that is me telling you this is the way you affirm who I am telling you I am. And so they're important and they're essential in that way. Yeah.
So this is Pride Month,
Mhm.
and I want to address within the LGBTQ community. I know a lot of people who have a really difficult time with the gender pronoun they and them.
Mhm.
Are you finding a lot of discrimination or pushback when you use that gender pronoun?
I think that it's a part of this idea of reprogramming. I think that traditionally, just in sort of the pushback that people always say, it's like this idea of like grammar and language, and it's not about that, right? Um, and so that's the sort of pushback that I hear in conversation. I think interpersonally with folks, I experience people will misgender according to what they see, and that is it, you know a person's internal interpretation of things that they have been taught or conditioned to believe about what gender is, how gender shows up. And so I think there are folks who don't mean well at all, don't really care whatsoever. I think there are folks who are like trying to figure it out and trying to learn and um, change their approach to pronouns. And then I think there are folks who are like more steeped and just, understand that gender is not binary, and that actually and that assuming someone's gender is problematic. And rather than assuming, you can literally just ask
Right.
in their pronouns. And if you are still going to assume that the assumption should be they, which it has no sort of gender context. It doesn't have a, excuse me, not that it doesn't have a gender context, but it doesn't have this like masculine, feminine, binary attachment to it in the way that he or she does. And so I encourage folks to use they as their sort of automatic until they ask or until someone says what their pronouns are.
Mhm. Or y'all in the South.
Yeah, where y'all?
Well, that's really helpful. Like you use they as the default. The
Yeah,
same way that you don't assume to know whether somebody's gay or straight
so
or bi or whatever. Like
whatever. Yeah,
just yeah,
yeah,
great.
yeah,
I'll take that on.
yeah.
Well, I'll take that on too.
Um,
Yeah.
so just right now it feels like we are also pulling a lot of focus on Black trans lives matter. I'm
Mhm.
curious if you have any thoughts about ways we can be more like those of us who are just watching can be more proactive in
Mhm.
that fight.
Mhm. I mean, the two things that bubble up right immediately for me is like educate, like self-education, doing the taking the time to like learn as much as you can about the fight, flight experiences, identities of Black trans people. There's more than enough information online, and it's not that community's responsibility to teach you. And that's for any community, but specifically this community that we're speaking about. And so educating yourself. There's so many oftentimes over the course of history that whiteness and white supremacy has erased the legacies of Black people, of Black trans people, of Black queer people. There's so many people that think Pride is just this big party and don't know that Black trans women started the riot at Stonewall,
Right.
which a year later, we celebrated in the first Pride. And there's so many of these stories that, Black trans, queer, and femme folks have led us into liberation, into freedom, and continue to right now. And so I think, educating ourselves is first and foremost, and supporting that looks different. I'm not a Black trans person, so you would need to ask a Black trans person what's supportive and helpful from them. But at what I consider myself to be an ally and an accomplice, I mean, supported financially. We have all sorts of proof of the disparities that Black trans folks experience, um, and how unfair society has treated them and continues to treat them around housing, around employment, around a number of things. And there's a bunch, I mean, literally a ton of Black trans initiatives, programs, projects that anyone can donate to, or communicate with and ask, how can I volunteer? How can I support? How can I help? In addition to donating, I think, you know, unfortunately, we live in a world that is built on money, and that is the way that folks are able to like move upward and onward in many situations. And I believe that, a person who holds the identities that they hold and has experienced the things that they experience should be at the forefront and leading whatever initiatives are impacting their lives. And so it's not our jobs to lead their work. It's not our jobs to get in their way. It's our jobs to support, to fund, and to ask what is supportive and to educate ourselves.
Mhm.
Brilliant.
So, both of you, Mary Mitchell and Twiggy, because you all don't know each other very well, but you're both um, great activists for our youth. So, Mary Mitchell, an artist striving to end poverty, reaches out and they're in underserved communities providing art. And Twiggy, a lot of people don't realize it. You are with True Colors United,
Mhm.
and you've worked your ass off in ending LGBTQ youth homelessness. So I admire both of you all. And where I'm going with this is about 5 years ago, I had the honor of sitting with the Dalai Lama because a friend of mine wrote a lot of the Dalai Lama's books for him. He was his translator. And this woman asked the Dalai Lama, this woman was in her 70s, and she said, what can we do to change the world? And the Dalai Lama responded, empower the youth. You've had your turn. The youth will heal where we've messed up. I would love both of you to kind of address the importance of our role as healers and activists in empowering the youth that you two work with. Twiggy, you want to start?
Yeah, you've really said it, right? Like it is our responsibility and our duty to support in the ways that are not adultist and paternalistic, and maternalist, you know, and rooted in this idea that because we have more years that we necessarily know more or know better. And so I think, in my work and our work at True Colors, our approach is collaboration and partnership with young people, to get to solutions and to create solutions. We work alongside and with, not for, or on behalf of, but with young people. And so that's our duty, that's our responsibility. And I think more conversations about how adultism, which is the opposite of ageism for folks who are less familiar, shows up, and unpacking that for ourselves. Again, one of those things like educating ourselves and sort of processing our own behaviors around that, and making sure that we are like genuinely partnering with young people and not being problematic.
Mm-hmm. That's very important. Mary Mitchell, do you have?
I mean, the two of you have really said so much, but the only thing I will add is that it sort of speaks to, on top of what Twiggy was just saying, it speaks to the concepts of power and how the power dynamic functions. And one of my big sort of life philosophies is about staying in the lane of power to empower and not power over. And I think in partnership with the kids we serve is staying in a place of power to empower, and sharing that power and sharing that responsibility and experience together, coming to solutions together and asking the questions and listening to the answers and not presupposing what the solution should be because we think we know.
Right. I've never really thought of the concept adultism. That's what you said, right? Adultism.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so ingrained in us that if we're the adult, we know what's right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the biggest bodies of our work. We, in our technical assistance that we provide to communities, one of the forms of technical assistance we provide to community is to create youth action boards, or these groups of young people who are organized together to work alongside adult partners at the system level and at the organization level. And before we create a youth action board, we have to train on adultism and unpacking adultism, because like you said, it's so ingrained in the way that we have been conditioned and taught growing up. And it's more hurtful and harmful than it is helpful. It undermines the expertise and the experiences that many of these young folks have, because they actually have lived experience and expertise.
I agree. I've worked with you at True Colors, and I know you're adamant that if we sit down to solve youth homelessness or youth experiencing homelessness, then we have to have the youth there.
Yeah.
Because you're right. I know nothing about that. Here
Yeah.
I am trying to make decisions, but I know nothing about being homeless.
And oftentimes in this movement and in tons of other movements, that is why so many issues have become secular, and like we don't ever end the thing, because we have folks who are in positions of power, and folks leading this work who have never experienced the issue that they're trying to work on. And don't get me wrong, there is a place for allyship and for advocacy, and that has to be in partnership with folks with lived experience.
Right.
Meaningfully partnering with folks with lived experience, not just tokenizing them or we moved out of this language around advisory boards, because that isn't advising. It's like, well, one level, and sure, it could be helpful, but no, this is about action, and about actually getting to the problem, getting to the root of the problem and solving it together.
Right. I want to come back to your art. You're a choreographer, and you're a choreographer on Pose, which is a show on FX.
Yeah.
How has working on the show healed parts of you that weren't healed by being in the community? Or is it just how? I want to hear your experience.
I mean, it's been affirming, I would say, more so than healing necessarily. I didn't imagine myself to be a quote unquote choreographer. I have taught runway for years. In fact, even before I was in the ballroom scene, I was like, in my hometown, there's these things called model troops, which are similar to houses and balls, but totally different. And I had been competing and walking in those since I was in middle school, working with, you know, adults, teaching them how to walk then. And so it's been a part of who I am in my whole life. And I never really imagined, to be honest, working on a TV show, much less being able to be on the team of choreographers that create the moments you see on the show. It's not just me, I'm the runway choreographer, and there's other choreographers like Leomi Maldonado and Slim, and you know, there's a few of us. And so my point around affirmation is just that I, you know, I have this philosophy that you dream it, think it, say it, do it. And, you know, having dreams of working on TV and having dreams of working in entertainment and thinking them and saying them and now doing them, you know, to be on set, actually like coaching movement with friends, colleagues, family, about, you know, a community I've been a part of for 16 years is nothing short of affirming. Yeah.
Wonderful. Are you hearing from fans? I know you're changing people's lives.
I don't know. I mean, you know, I love getting like DMs and messages from people on social media, and that is really affirming. It helps me to know that I'm on some sort of right track with the projects that I'm working on. But yeah, I just feel like I'm moving in alignment with what I'm called to do, and you know, even if it only inspires or helps one person, I'm okay with that.
Isn't it amazing though when you feel like you're in your zone and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing?
Absolutely,
That is a gift.
absolutely, it really is. It's something I'm grateful for every day.
Yeah. I understand that feeling.
Yeah, we were talking about this on we have a support group that we meet weekly that Mary Mitchell runs, and it's a lot of artists.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking the other day about, you know, as a physician, as a doctor, yeah, I may help one person at a time and I may be able to cure something, a person, but right now we need healing. And
Mm-hmm.
artists have the power to heal. They have the power to heal communities. They have the power to heal at a big level.
Absolutely.
And I want to mention this with you because you do describe yourself as a healer.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been in the healing arts for 28 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that some people were born with a gift, but then that gift has to be acknowledged and cultivated.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned this at the beginning. I've seen you walk into a room and the energy changes. Can you give advice to our listeners on how to cultivate the healing gift so that they can affect change in the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of, you know, I can sort of underline what you said. It really is about the acknowledging that it is a gift or a calling to a person, and from that acknowledgement, pouring into yourself. You know, reading about what it means to heal, what the different forms of healing are, and sort of figuring out where you like fall in the sauce a bit. I think for me personally, I listen to my spirit in all things, and I genuinely trust my gut in every situation, and and that doesn't come easy. It comes with a lot of like trials and tribulations and mistakes and errors, and that's a part of the process. But I believe in my own divinity, and I believe in my connection to what I call the universe, and some people say God, and there's a bunch of, you know, sort of spiritual ways to refer to the divine. And I think, you know, pouring into yourself, learning about healing, and just believing that like what the form of healing you are called to do, like knowing that that is the thing, the path will make itself. It'll literally like set itself in front of you, and then you just follow, right? You just go
So
and do.
yeah, I'm hearing you say a lot about trust
Yeah.
and courage
Yeah.
because it's not an easy life.
Yeah.
trust your gut, have the courage to follow through, and know that you have a path
Yeah, absolutely.
and that you're divine. I love that. You're divine rising angel.
Yeah.
And your inner voice, I mean, I feel like because that's similar, I have a similar philosophy on that. And I also find it hard with the world chatter to make sure that you can still hear it.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's about finding the ways to make sure you're still listening to it, that you're
Exactly.
still, and that to me seems to be like the thing that I feel like I most struggle with finding that quiet time.
Yeah, yeah, that was what I was alluding to earlier. Like that's why my self-care is unplugging, because I have to have that quiet time to hear myself, to hear the divine, to like not hear the news, to not look at social media, and sometimes not to even hear from friends or family because I just need that time to myself to sit and listen. Um, so yeah.
It's
Yeah,
important.
very critical.
Well, Mary Mitchell, we're winding down Wellness Wednesday.
Alright. This has been amazing.
Yeah,
Twiggy,
thank you for
thank
having me.
you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Twiggy, I know you're extremely busy, so it's an honor to have you here. Thank you for the work that you do. Mary Mitchell, thank you, and Artists Striving to End Poverty for hosting these Wellness Wednesdays event. And hopefully we're going to get a little healing in our community.
Yes,
Oh,
we
that's
all
what
can use more healing.
that's exactly it. That's what we need. Now's the time. It's always the time, actually.
All right. Have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Twiggy. Thank you, Mary Mitchell. Thanks, everybody. Check out True Colors. It's True Colors
ColorsUnited.org.
United.org, because when I came on, it was True Colors Fund. So check
Yeah.
out TrueColorsUnited.org, check out astep.org and all the work that's being done. And we'll see you next week for our next Wellness Wednesday.
Follow me on all platforms. It's Simply Twiggy on Instagram, Twitter, everything.
Simply Twiggy.
Hey, Twiggy.
There's much more than Simply Twiggy, but I love that.
Thank you.
Y'all
Thank you.
be well, everybody. Thank you.